Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Nathan, and at 32 years old, I thought I knew exactly where my life was headed. I'd been with my fiancée Jessica for nearly 3 years. She was 5 years younger than me, which had never felt like a significant gap. We'd met online, and things had progressed naturally from there. I proposed a few months after our second year of dating. I presented the ring I'd saved for months to buy. She said yes immediately, calling her friends afterwards. The ring had cost me thousands of dollars. It's not a fortune, but a significant amount for my salary. After the engagement, we jumped immediately into wedding planning. Jessica was thrilled to start organizing. We booked a venue when we decided on the date, then started building our guest list, which quickly grew to over 200 people between both our families and extensive friend groups. In the months that followed, we met with caterers, interviewed photographers, and toured florists who showed us centerpiece options that cost more than I'd expected to spend on the entire reception. The wedding had taken on a life of its own. Both our families were involved and excited. Jessica's parents were contributing financially. Her father had agreed to cover the venue and catering, while my parents were handling the bar service and photography. Jessica and I were responsible for everything else. The planning consumed most of Jessica's free time. Everything was moving forward exactly as it was supposed to. Jessica was very active on social media, and she posted constantly. Her feed was carefully curated and actively maintained. She had several thousand followers, mostly people she knew or had met through various social circles over the years. I wasn't like that. Although I had accounts on the major platforms, I barely used them. Would scroll occasionally to see what friends were up to, but rarely posted. This difference had never been a big issue between us. She lived her life online in addition to offline. I lived mine almost entirely offline. We'd joke about it sometimes. She'd call me a social media grandpa. I'd tease her about needing to document everything for the internet. But there had been one recurring tension point throughout our relationship. Her ex-boyfriend. They'd dated for over a year. The relationship had ended about 4 months before Jessica and I met, so it wasn't ancient history, but wasn't exactly recent either. From what Jessica had told me early in our relationship, the ex had ended things. She'd wanted to keep dating, he'd wanted to break up and focus on his travel or something like that. It had been painful for her at the time, though she'd insisted she was completely over it by the time we met. But despite being over it, she still brought her ex up occasionally in stories or references. At first, I hadn't thought much of it. Everyone has a past. Everyone dated other people before meeting their eventual partner. It would be weird to pretend those relationships never existed. But as our relationship continued over the years, I started noticing how she'd compare things I did to things her ex used to do, sometimes favorably, sometimes less so. Or mention something her ex had said or thought about a particular topic. It wasn't constant, but it was recurring enough that I noticed, and it low-key started bothering me. I'd brought it up once, asking why she referenced him so much. Jessica had seemed genuinely surprised by the question, said that he'd been part of her life for years and naturally came up in memories, the same way any significant past relationship would. She added that it was weird to expect her to never talk about anyone she'd dated before me. I'd felt embarrassed for bringing it up. Told myself she was right, that I was probably being overly sensitive and possessive. So I'd let it drop. Apologized for making it weird. Decided to be less bothered by occasional mentions of an ex-boyfriend. By the time we got engaged, I'd mostly learned to ignore it. Told myself it didn't matter. That she was marrying me, that clearly I was who she wanted to be with, but that would change. One Friday night, I'd had a normal day at work with the usual operational headaches. Got home around 6, changed out of my work clothes into sweats, and ordered a pizza since I was too tired to cook. While waiting for the delivery, I was sitting on my couch scrolling through Instagram. It was a mindless evening activity. Jessica's new post appeared in my feed. The photo was from a beach party. Ocean in the background, other people visible but blurred. Jessica was in the foreground, sitting on someone's lap. Her ex, I recognized from other old photos she'd occasionally posted. She was wearing a bikini top and shorts. He had his arms wrapped around her waist. She was leaning back against his chest, both of them smiling directly at the camera. Her head was tilted slightly toward his. His chin was almost resting on her shoulder. Classic intimate couple pose. Her caption read, "Sometimes I miss the old days." I stared at the photo, pizza completely forgotten. I tried to process what I was seeing and what it meant. My fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry in less than 3 months, the woman whose wedding we were actively planning, the woman I'd given a ring worth thousands of dollars, had just posted a romantic, intimate photo with her ex-boyfriend. Not just posted it, but captioned it with sentiment about missing the past. Not missing a general time period like college days or summer. Missing the old days, while literally sitting on her ex-boyfriend's lap in the photo. I zoomed in on the image, looked at their body language, the way they were positioned, the ease and intimacy of the pose. I checked the timestamp. She'd posted it 45 minutes ago. It already had over 100 likes and a dozen comments. I felt an explosive anger settle in my chest. I set my phone down, trying to think through what I was feeling and why. The doorbell rang, pizza delivery. I paid, brought the box inside, and sat back down with a slice I didn't really taste. I picked up my phone again and looked at the photo once more. It was still there, still public, still captioned with those words about missing what used to be. I opened my text messages and typed out a message to Jessica. "I think you should return the engagement ring. Clearly, you miss the old days more than what we have now." Read it over once and hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I kept the phone and tried to eat my pizza while waiting for her response. It came about 10 minutes later. "Oh, come on, it was just a throwback. Everyone posts old pictures." With a laughing emoji. The laughing emoji felt particularly dismissive, like my concern was absurd, and she couldn't believe I was being so ridiculous. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened Instagram and went to my profile, found Jessica's account in my following list, and hit unfollow. Then I went through my own profile and systematically deleted every photo I had of us together. There weren't many, maybe 5 or 6 over our 3 years, since I posted so rarely. But I removed all of them. The more I thought about it, the clearer things became. This wasn't just about one photo. It was about a pattern I'd been trying to ignore for years. The constant references to her ex. The comparisons. The way she'd never fully let go of that relationship, even though it had ended years ago. And now, months away from our wedding, she was posting intimate photos with him, captioned with nostalgia for what they'd had. If she missed the old days with her ex, what did that say about what she felt about the future with me? I ate another slice of pizza. To distract myself, I turned on the TV to some show. Eventually, I went to bed, where I lay awake for hours, still thinking. By morning, I'd made my decision. I made coffee for myself and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. I logged on to Facebook Marketplace, then uploaded photos of the ring from multiple angles I had taken before giving the ring to Jessica. The full ring in its black velvet box. Detailed shots showing the setting and band. Uploaded all the photos to the marketplace. Filled in all the specifications. Titled the listing, "Engagement ring for sale, make an offer." Accepting reasonable offers. Set it to public listing, where anyone could see it and make offers. Then I went about my Saturday. Normal weekend activities, while my phone stayed mostly silent. Around 2 in the afternoon, I got a text from Jessica. "Can we please talk about last night? I think you overreacted." I ignored it. An hour later, "Nathan, come on. You're being ridiculous." Still ignored it. Around 4 in the afternoon, my phone started ringing. Jessica calling. I declined the call. She called again. Declined again. Then the text started coming. "Why aren't you answering? Did you seriously unfollow me? Really? You deleted all our photos? What is wrong with you?" I still didn't respond. Around 6, my phone buzzed with a notification from the resale site. Before I could even look at that, Jessica sent another message. "Did you seriously list our engagement ring for sale?" I smiled slightly. She'd found the listing somehow. Her next message came seconds later. "Nathan, what the hell is wrong with you? This is insane. Call me right now. Are you having some kind of mental breakdown? You can't just sell my ring. I finally responded with one text. The engagement is off. I need the ring back so I can sell it. You weren't wearing it anyway. My phone immediately started ringing. I declined the call. More messages flooded in over the next hour. She argued that I was being insecure and controlling. If a photo bothered me this much, maybe I wasn't ready for marriage. That I was throwing away 3 years over nothing. That everyone posts throwback photos, and I was the only person who had a problem with it. That I was embarrassing her by being so jealous and possessive. I read through all of them carefully. Each message just confirmed what I'd already realized. She didn't understand. Didn't see why posting that specific photo with that specific caption while engaged to someone else was disrespectful. And if she didn't understand something that basic, we had a fundamental incompatibility in how we viewed relationships and boundaries. I muted her messages and went back to my evening. Sunday morning, my phone rang. It was Jessica's mother. She was already yelling before I could even say hello properly. How dare I humiliate her daughter like this? How dare I break off an engagement over something so trivial? Did I know how embarrassing this was for their family? What was she supposed to tell people when they asked about the wedding? How could I do this to Jessica after 3 years together? I waited until she paused for breath. Then I said very calmly, I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending everything was fine. She tried to interrupt, but I kept talking. I explained that the photo Jessica had posted, the caption about missing the old days, Jessica's pattern throughout our relationship of constantly referencing and comparing me to her ex-boyfriend. Her mother didn't want to hear it, said I was making a mountain out of a molehill. Young people post old photos all the time. It's just what they do on social media. That I was throwing away a perfectly good relationship over absolutely nothing. That Jessica loved me, and I was being cruel and unreasonable. I told her I disagreed with her assessment of the situation, that I'd made my decision and it was final. I only needed Jessica to return the ring this week. Jessica's mother raised her voice again, said the ring was Jessica's, that I'd given it to her, and couldn't just take it back, that this was probably illegal, and she talked to a lawyer if I tried to force the issue. I calmly informed her that engagement rings are conditional gifts in North Carolina, and if the engagement is broken off, the ring is legally supposed to be returned to the person who gave it. I hoped Jessica would return it voluntarily, but I was prepared to go to court if necessary. Jessica's mother sputtered something about me being heartless and hung up. I made myself coffee and breakfast and enjoyed the quiet Sunday morning. Later that day, Jessica texted from what must have been a different number or a friend's phone. Can we talk? You didn't have to make it public. I replied simply, neither did you. She wanted to meet in person. Insisted we needed to talk face to face, that text messages weren't sufficient for something this important. That we owed it to our 3 years together to at least have a real conversation. I refused. Told her everything that needed to be said had been said, and I wanted the ring back. I added that the wedding was off, and I was moving forward with my life. She kept trying over the next few days. Called from different numbers that I'd declined. Sent messages through friends that I'd ignore. Showed up at my apartment building once, but I didn't buzz her in. By Wednesday, I was tired of the runaround. She still hadn't returned the ring and was clearly stalling, hoping I'd change my mind if she just refused to cooperate. So I called my attorney, someone I'd used a few years back. I explained the situation that I broke off the engagement, and my fiancée is refusing to return the ring despite multiple requests. My attorney asked some clarifying questions about the ring, when I'd given it whether it had been an unconditional gift or clearly tied to the marriage proposal, and whether there was any documentation of the purchase. I had the receipt from the jeweler showing the purchase price and date. Had text from around the proposal time that clearly indicated this was an engagement ring given in anticipation of marriage. Michael explained that in North Carolina, engagement rings are considered conditional gifts. The condition is marriage. If the marriage doesn't happen, regardless of who breaks off the engagement, the ring should be returned to the giver. If Jessica refused to return it voluntarily, I could file a claim in small claims court and would very likely win. He offered to send her a formal demand letter first, which might convince her to return it without court involvement. I agreed. My attorney drafted a letter that afternoon. Formal legal letterhead, official language. Stated that I was demanding the return of the engagement ring within 10 days. If she didn't comply, I would file a claim in small claims court and would also seek to recover court costs and legal fees. He sent it via certified mail, so we'd have proof of receipt. 2 days later, Jessica's response came. Not to me, but to Michael. She'd apparently consulted her own attorney. Her lawyer sent a letter arguing that the ring was a gift and therefore Jessica's property. That I couldn't demand it back just because I changed my mind about getting married. That this was harassment, and if I continued, they would pursue a restraining order. My attorney called me after receiving it. Said her attorney was bluffing and clearly didn't know North Carolina case law on conditional gifts. That we should proceed with filing the small claims case. I told him to do whatever was necessary. My attorney filed the claim that week. Jessica was served with a court summons requiring her to appear for a hearing in 3 weeks. According to my attorney, that's when her attorney must have actually researched the law, because 2 days after being served, Jessica's lawyer called to negotiate. They wanted to settle without going to court. Jessica would return the ring, I would drop the claim, and agree not to pursue court costs. Both parties would sign a release saying the matter was fully resolved. I agreed immediately. I didn't care about the court costs. I just wanted the ring back so I could sell it and move on. We arranged a neutral exchange. Jessica tried to talk to me when we pulled up, talking about how this didn't have to be the end, that we could still work things out. I cut her off politely but firmly, said I just needed the ring, nothing else. She pulled the ring box out of her purse, held it for a moment like she might not give it up, then handed it to my attorney instead of to me directly. My attorney verified it was the correct ring, had me confirm, then handed her the release document to sign. She signed. Then she got back in her car and they left. When I finally got someone serious enough to buy it, I realized engagement rings depreciate the moment you buy them. I got a fair offer and I accepted. Better to take the loss and move forward than hold onto something that represented a failed relationship. And just like that, it was done. My parents had been confused and concerned when I first told them I'd broken off the engagement. They'd really liked Jessica, had been looking forward to the wedding. I explained the situation to them in detail, showed them the Instagram post that started everything. My father had understood immediately, said that if my future wife was posting intimate photos with an ex while engaged to me, that showed poor judgment and disrespect, that I was right to end things. My mother had been more conflicted. She understood my concerns, but also felt sad about the relationship ending. Worried that I was making an impulsive decision I'd regret. Suggested that maybe counseling could help Jessica understand why the post bothered me. I appreciated her concern, but told her my decision was final. That counseling couldn't fix the fundamental issue, which was that Jessica didn't see anything wrong with what she'd done. The wedding cancellation logistics had been complicated. We'd already put deposits down on the venue. The contract said deposits were non-refundable within 6 months of the event date. I'd reached out to the venue coordinator anyway, explained that the wedding was canceled, asked if there was any possibility of recovering any portion of the deposit, given the circumstances. She'd been sympathetic but firm, said the policy existed because they turned down other bookings for our date and couldn't easily fill the slot on such short notice, that we'd signed the contract agreeing to the terms. We'd also already paid deposits to a photographer and a florist. I had written it all off, seeing it as the cost of not making a huge mistake. Expensive lesson, but cheaper than divorce would have been. The most awkward part had been informing guests. We'd already sent save-the-date cards to over 200 people. Hadn't sent formal invitations yet. Those were supposed to go out 3 months before the wedding. But people had already made plans around our date. Now, 3 months after that Friday night when I'd seen the Instagram post, I'm settled into my new normal. I still live in the same house. still have the same job. I've also spent time reflecting on what I learned from the relationship and its ending. I learned that social media behavior matters more than I thought. How someone presents themselves and their relationships online is a window into their values and priorities. If they're willing to post intimate photos with an ex while engaged to you, that says something significant about their judgment and their commitment. I learned that everyone does it is not a valid justification for behavior that crosses relationship boundaries. Just because posting old photos is common doesn't mean posting romantic photos with an ex while engaged is acceptable. I learned that when someone dismisses your concerns as insecurity or overreaction, that's a red flag. A partner who cares about you listens when something bothers you, even if they don't initially understand why. They don't invalidate your feelings or mock you for having boundaries. I learned to trust my gut. When I saw that photo and felt that immediate certainty that this wasn't okay, I should have recognized that instinct is valid. Instead, I'd spent months second-guessing myself whenever Jessica referenced her ex, telling myself I was being insecure when really I was recognizing a legitimate problem. I learned that breaking off an engagement, while difficult and embarrassing and expensive, is infinitely better than marrying someone you already have fundamental doubts about. The wedding day pressure, the sunk costs, the family expectations, the fear of judgment, none of that should override your own judgment about whether this person is actually right for you. I learned that sometimes people show you exactly who they are, and you should believe them the first time. Jessica's post and her response to my concerns showed me clearly that we had incompatible views on relationship boundaries and respect. She couldn't have been clearer if she'd said it directly. I learned that you can't force someone to respect boundaries they don't believe exist. Jessica genuinely didn't see anything wrong with what she'd done. No amount of explaining would create that understanding if she fundamentally didn't value the same things I did in a relationship. I learned that financial losses are recoverable. That money stings, especially since I work hard for every dollar. But it's nothing compared to what I would have lost emotionally, financially, temporally, if I'd married someone who didn't respect me or our relationship. Most importantly, I learned that self-respect is non-negotiable. When someone shows you they don't value your relationship the way you do, you have to be willing to walk away. Even if it's hard, even if it's embarrassing, even if everyone thinks you're overreacting, even if you've already bought the dress, booked the venue, and sent the save the dates. Because staying in a relationship where you're constantly compromising your boundaries and accepting disrespect just to avoid conflict or loss, that's no way to live. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept. If I'd shrugged off Jessica's post and married her anyway, I'd be teaching her that disrespecting our relationship had no consequences. That she could keep Ryan in her life and in her mind in whatever way she wanted. By walking away, I taught both her and myself a valuable lesson about boundaries and self-respect. Looking back now, I don't regret my decision. Not for a single moment. Do I wish things had been different? Sure. I'd imagined a future with Jessica. Had mentally committed to building a life together. It's sad when something you thought was real turns out not to be. But that sadness is nothing compared to the relief I feel at not being trapped in a marriage with someone who'd shown me, clearly and repeatedly, that she wasn't fully committed to me. I made the right decision, even though it was hard. I'm grateful now. Grateful I had the strength to walk away. Grateful I dodged what would have been a miserable marriage. And because I walked away from someone wrong, I'm now free to find someone right.